Rain can't stop the Red Sox as they win game one of the Houston Astros series at Fenway Park 6-3. And despite a rain delay, the Sox find a way to win. What's up, Sox fans? This is the Locked On Red Sox podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider, Jake Ignaszewski. I'm back from my 1 week trip out west with the Massachusetts Pirates. I'm so happy to be back hosting this podcast. I'm solo tonight. Lauren unfortunately wasn't able to record, but we'll be back together tomorrow. But let's get into this episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So as I mentioned in the open, Red Sox win game one of the series against the Houston Astros 6-3. Going into the rain delay, it was a 2-2 tie ball game. But before that, we saw Garrett Whitlock pitch 5 innings, only allowing 3 hits, 2 earned runs, walking 2 guys and striking out 3. We saw him in the first inning get out of a jam with 2 runners on, no outs, found a way to strike out the next 2 batters, and then ultimately get the 3rd out of that inning. We also saw in this game JD Martinez extend his 16-game hitting streak to 17 games. Throughout the last 15 games, we've seen him hit .355 with 3 home runs and 9 RBIs. But as I mentioned, going into the rain delay, it was a tie ball game. And then we ultimately saw right out of the gate, Rafael Devers in the bottom of the 6th inning get on base with a lead-off single. Thinking in my mind, perfect opportunity for the Red Sox to find a way to take the lead. No outs, Rafi's on, JD's up. He's super duper hot. Then unfortunately, Martinez lines out into a double play. Then we saw Matt Barnes come in for the 7th, which going into this, I saw Chris Cotillo's tweet. I said, I don't feel good about this. Matt Barnes always finds a way to screw up the game. Ultimately, I was right. Jason Castro doubles. Then we saw a sac bunt. Then ultimately, Jose Altuve singled to score the run to make the score 3-2. Then we saw Matt Strom ultimately come in for Barnes. Then he hit Michael Brantley. In my mind, I'm like, all right, this couldn't get any more worse. We have 1 out. Ultimately, a few more runners on. Strom in. I trust Strom. We've seen him be very reliable so far this season, but wasn't really feeling too good with the Astros leading 3-2. Then we saw him strike out the next 2 batters, come up super duper clutch when the Red Sox needed it most. But then, we saw the Red Sox find a way to tie the ball game. Trevor Story hitting a towering home run over the monster, his first home run at Fenway Park to make the score 3-3. And then in the bottom of the 8th inning, JD Martinez doubles on a line drive to center field, ultimately scoring Kike Hernandez to make the score 4-3. Then Xander Bogaerts, with chance of re-sign Xander, hits a home run to left center field, which ultimately scores JD Martinez as well to make the score 6-3. And that is the score that the Red Sox win it by after Hansel Robles closes it out. And a real nice win for the Sox, especially after a tough 7-1 loss against the Texas Rangers. It was really nice to see the offense start to find their groove, especially after a long rain delay. I did want to mention something, though. Something that surprised me, especially early in the game. 4th inning, we saw Rafael Devers make an incredible catch, and we've seen him time and time again show that he's getting much better at the hot corner defensively. And then also, saw Frenchie Cordero. It was interesting. Hit a ball, in my mind, was a single. with his speed, found a way to get to second base, slide in for a double. And I wanted to sort of talk about this since I haven't really been on the podcast over the last week about how Cordero has really changed into a much different hitter, player in the majors this time around after getting called up. And, we saw him do really well to start the season in Worcester. We also saw him hit very well in spring training. But both of those don't really 100% always correlate to a player changing their approach in the majors or really getting on track or improving. And that's what we've seen Franchi do during this stint. We've seen him have the same amount of walks as he has strikeouts, which I can't believe I'm saying that with Franchi Cordero in the same exact sentence. He's struck out 6 times, walked 6 times. We've seen a much more patient hitter at the plate, not swinging at tons of balls and really allowing the count to develop and the up at bat to develop. And he's really sort of built up that discipline at the plate, which is really nice to see from a guy who has some really good talent, especially with his bat. When he gets going, has some really good power. And when he's going really well. So it's been nice to see him do a lot better. Somebody else that I want to give props to, even though he didn't get to fully finish his outing or his inning that he was given after Garrett Whitlock was taken out, was Jake Diekman. I'm somebody who has been very critical of Jake Diekman, but for understandable reasons. When I get pissed off about Diekman, it's because he screwed up the game. It's because he blew up a potential win that the Red Sox had due to his awful pitching or awful decision making. But we saw him come in, run on first and second, get out of the no out jam, or excuse me, he got the 2 outs for Garrett Whitlock, and then ultimately we saw John Schreiber come in and shut the door and finish out the inning to get out of the jam. But it was nice to see sort of a guy like Diekman, who has struggled in those high leverage situations, come up big when the Red Sox really needed it most. So great win all around for the Red Sox. We saw coming into this game, the Astros were on a hot streak. They won 13 of their last 14 games. So it's really nice to see this Red Sox pick up the first win of the series. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do tomorrow against Jose Yaquibi, but I'm going to talk about that in the next segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast. In our second episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, I'm going to talk to you about some nice injury updates regarding Chris Sale and Michael Wacha, as well as preview Game 2 of this Astros series between Jose Yaquibi and Nathan Eovaldi. But I just want to take a second to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered and is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Finding all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And I want to thank you guys so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen. But for your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcast. They recap MLB games with analysis from your local experts and take fans through the season like no other network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. So, as I mentioned, I want to touch on some intriguing news coming out of the Red Sox injury bug that they've been dealing with in terms of their pitching department. Starting on Chris Sale, he is currently resumed throwing after being shut down by a non-baseball medical issue. It's nice to see him back in rolling, getting back into his recovery. It was said that he should be ready by, mid-June. That was said at the start of the season. We could be looking a little bit more at the end of June, maybe July. And it'd be really nice to get him back in this rotation. I really want the Red Sox to slowly bring him back, sort of like what they did with him coming back from Tommy John surgery. Give him multiple rehab games. They did it in Portland as well as we saw in Worcester last season. I hope they do the same as that thing and don't rush him back. I want to see Chris Sale that we know and love and saw 2-3 years ago. He did not look like himself last season when he came back. Makes sense with how strenuous of an injury Tommy John is, but or the surgery, excuse me. But it's nice to hear some intriguing news out of the Chris Sale front, especially after we heard, 2 weeks ago that him and James Paxton were going to be pushed back a little bit. That was obviously sad to hear. And also some nice news about Michael Wacha. He's back on track to return this weekend after tossing a 2-inning sim game on Monday. So it'll be nice to have Wacha back in the rotation as well. He's been, in my opinion, the most reliable pitcher that the Red Sox have had so far this season outside of Nathan Eovaldi in that rotation. So it'll be nice to have a reliable guy back in that rotation. And we don't have to deal with some of those, ugly starts like we saw, even though I was going to say, like we saw a few days ago, with Austin Davis starting the game, he pitched well. It was just Ryan Brazier that blew up the game, but it's never ideal when you have or are constrained to having a reliever start the game. So it would be nice for a starting pitcher to be back in the rotation and somebody that we can rely on and be confident going into the game. But looking at game 2 against the Astros, as I mentioned, it's Jose Urquidy for the Astros on the bump with Nathan Eovaldi for the Red Sox. Right now, Urquidy is sporting a 4.40 ERA, and during his last outing against the Twins, pitched 3 innings, only allowing 1 earned run and 3 strikeouts. But if you remember, Urquidy pitched against the Red Sox in Game 3 of last season in the ALCS, and only lasted 1 2/3 innings. He got absolutely demolished by the Red Sox bats. That's when they were super duper hot in those early games of last year's ALCS. He allowed 6 runs, as I mentioned, only pitched 1 2/3 innings. He's looking for a different outcome this next game. We'll see. Obviously, much different Red Sox offense than there was last season, as we've talked about, throughout this first month of the 2022 season. Very underperforming Red Sox offense, starting to find a little bit of a groove, it seems like, over the last week or so, starting to piece some hits together. Had a 11-run game, 2 days ago. So it'll be interesting to see how the Red Sox really stack up against Urquidy. Even though it's a little bit of a different lineup, obviously they don't have Kyle Schwarber, somebody who did hit a home run off of Urquidy, but most of these guys do have in the Red Sox lineup do have experience facing Urquidy. So I'm very curious to see this second go around how he really does against the Sox. And then, as I mentioned, Nathan Eovaldi on the bump for Boston. Last game, 6 1/3 innings, allowing 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts against the Braves. He's sporting a 3.15 ERA so far. Eovaldi has pitched mediocre so far. In some games he's very good. Some games he just allows home runs, and that's his biggest issue, is allowing guys on base and then ultimately allowing home runs to, stack up the scorecard. And it's unfortunate with a guy like Eovaldi, who he's your top pitcher in this Red Sox rotation right now, and he's usually very reliable. So I'm very curious to see how he does against this Astros lineup, a lineup who has hit very well so far to start the season. It'll all be very interesting to see how everything unfolds in game 2 of the Astros series. But I'm super excited. It's nice to hear these injury updates, these positive injury updates, and hopefully the Red Sox can continue finding ways to get wins here and there to keep creeping back up to that 500 record. Still have a losing record, but they got to keep on stringing these wins together. What's nice is that they're looking a lot better in May than they did in April, starting to figure things out with the bullpen. Some guys figuring it out, some guys doing the same old stuff like Matt Barnes and Ryan Brazier. So still got to work on that sort of stuff, but the Sox are starting to, find themselves and come to their own, which is nice to see. But going into this last and final segment of this episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, I'm going to do a little bit of a mental health minute. I miss doing this podcast so much, and have had a lot of time to reflect on my West Coast road trip with the Massachusetts Pirates. So want to speak a little bit of some good wisdom that I learned during my time out west and reflecting. But just want to take a second to talk to you about Built Bar. So if you have not yet tried Built Bar's birthday cake puffs, you're missing out. They just sent me a brand new box. My first time ever trying the birthday cake puff specific bar, and I got to tell you, it right when you bite it, it's not a protein bar, it's a candy bar, and you can really taste the 100% real chocolate that's within this bar, and it's really nice being able to look at the nutritional facts and not feel like you're cheating on your healthy diet or going overboard with the sweets that you usually do when you try a candy bar. But Built Bar is a different type of protein bar that tastes good and is also good for you. So I just I just can't get enough of these birthday cake puffs. I have them not only before my workout, also after my workout. So make every day your birthday with Built's birthday cake puffs. Is taking the delicious experience of biting into a fresh slice of birthday cake and roped it in 100% real white chocolate, and even add sprinkles as well. And with 150 calories, 16 grams of protein, and only 9 grams of sugar, this limited time flavor is an amazing option if you are looking for a healthy way to get flavor and variety in your day. And all Built Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate, and that means that with Built, you can eat healthy and enjoy it as well. So make sure to go to built.com, get your birthday cake puffs now. They also have some great other flavors as well that are super delicious, super good for you as well. You can even check their macros chart to learn how good these things are really good are for you, and how they can help you really elevate your diet and be able to eat healthy and not be hungry throughout the day. So go to built.com, use their promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's right. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order at built.com. So with this final segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, I just wanted to say, take that time to really be proud of how far you've come over the last 6 months and figure out what these next 6 months you really want to look like. We're at May 17th right now. We're getting close to the halfway mark, obviously, which is June of the year. And it's really good, in my opinion, to reflect on how far you've come in half a year and how you're looking to continue to make the rest of this year of 2022 the best year of your life. You only get every second once, and it's so important to live every single day like it's your last. Live every single moment to the fullest, and really try and mold the life that that you're going to wake up happy each and every single day. Obviously, life figures out a way to give us twists and turns, road bumps, put us in situations that are uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, saying that I can't, definitely heard it from someplace else. I didn't come up with it, but I like using is we're just following a script, and we just gotta allow the script in the story to unfold and continue to do our part. Wake up every single day, do our best, and the rest will unfold on how it's supposed to. And all we can really do is surrender and allow things to happen and make our best judgment on how to react. And I think with being able to look at your goals that you made at the start of 2022, engage on how are those goals working out, and if I want to tweak them in any way, and if I want to continue to elevate and even make better goals, do that. on this podcast, we're not just talking about the Red Sox. We love this team more than anything, but what I want to do is continue to use my voice to help others, make a connection with you. And if I'm able to make your day any better, that's definitely the goal. Because being able to do this Monday through Friday and connect with amazing people on Red Sox Twitter and in the Red Sox Nation is truly a blessing, and I'm very, very grateful for it. But as you can tell, really miss this podcast. Really miss being able to talk about the boys that I love and the team that I love, and being able to connect with the Red Sox Nation. But that is it for this episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast. I hope everybody did enjoy. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. We post Red Sox content each and every single day to keep you guys updated with what is happening with your favorite team. And I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make sure to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also follow myself on Twitter. It's at Jake Iggy, as well as my co-host Lauren. It's La with 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But hopefully the Sox can keep on stacking up these wins, like I said, and get back to that 500 spot. But so excited for this next week of Red Sox action and to keep you guys updated. If you have not yet, make sure to subscribe on whatever audio platform that you're listening to. We also post on YouTube. This show is Monday through Friday to keep you updated with your favorite team. So make sure to check back tomorrow. Greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's have a great day. Let's have a great week. And let's go Sox. Peace.